Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder that affects more than 5 million Americans. Its symptoms involve memory loss, impaired judgment, and an overall loss of the ability to function. Alterations in various genes cause the buildup of a harmful protein fragment in the brain, which then leads to the death of nerve cells and the progression of the disease. There are two types of Alzheimer's: early onset, which develops before age 65, and late onset, which develops after age 65. We chose to focus on late onset Alzheimer's in specific for our test. The only genetic variation that 23andMe tests is the E4 variant of the APOE gene, which is most commonly associated with late-onset Alzheimer's. The APOE gene codes for a protein that becomes a lipoprotein when combined with fat that's responsible for removing cholesterol from the bloodstream. Although the APOE E4 variant increases the overall risk of contracting Alzheimer's nearly threefold, it's not fully understood just how this genetic variation leads to the disease. This has led researchers to suspect that there are other factors involved, potentially other genes and environmental factors that could affect your chances. Although the APOE E4 variant has a strong correlation to the development of late-onset Alzheimer's, it's not the only genetic variation linked to the disease. The 23andMe test misses some crucial genetic variants that would give valuable information as to whether or not someone will develop late-onset Alzheimer's.
While more than 150 mutations are associated with early-onset Alzheimer's, it only accounts for about 5% of all Alzheimer's cases. Late-onset Alzheimer's is a bit more unknown, with fewer SNPs with connections to the disease, but surprisingly account for the remaining 95% of cases. Along with the APOE gene, there are 3 other genes discovered that are most notable associated with increased risk of the development of late-set Alzheimer's: TM2D3 producing genes, TREM2, and PLD3. There are 3 genes that produce the protein TM2D3. Almondex, CG11103, Almiretto, and CG10795 Bikoski. Researchers suggest that these genes have something to do with Notch signaling, specifically in development. Notch signaling is a cell communication system that plays a prominent role in the formation and function of the nervous system. This is so important that without proper function, it could even shorten your lifespan. A lack of Almondex specifically causes a shortened lifespan, along with progressive motor and electrophysiological defects.
And then we have the TREM2 gene. This gene produces a protein called tyrosine kinase, which helps monitor and reduce inflammation within the brain. Of course, when there's overinflammation anywhere in the body, it could lead to something much worse. Although both of these genes are a bit rare, they increase one's risk of developing Alzheimer's disease dramatically, causing the risk to grow threefold. But finally, we see one of the most common genes other than the APOE gene in causing cancer, PLD3. According to the National Institute of Health, PLD3 codes for enzymes that influence the processing of the APP protein, which is associated with possibly helping to redirect the movement of neurons in the brain. Shown in the SNP known as RS145999145, this mutation nearly doubles the risk of developing late-onset Alzheimer's. These genetic variations put you at the same risk level as having the APOE E4 variant, yet 23andMe does not even consider them in their test.
Our much improved SNP chip test would include all of these variants as well as the APOE variant that 23andMe already tests for. It's clear that for a more accurate yet comprehensive test, all of these genetic variations need to be included. Simply put, our test is the better option because it might catch genetic variations that pull one at the same or even a greater risk for developing late-onset Alzheimer's than the one variation that 23andMe detects. Note that your test results do not guarantee that you will develop Alzheimer's, and the absence of these genetic traits does not mean that you will not develop Alzheimer's. There are several factors at play, but little is known about late-onset Alzheimer's. As stated earlier, there are plenty of outside factors that affect your chances of contracting the disease, not just genetic. Eating well, exercising, getting into relationships, and training your mind are all shown to help decrease your overall risk. This genetic test is simply a tool that allows you to be aware of your risk and to make informed lifestyle decisions. We are not liable for any bad decisions you make.